Hi, this is Justin Lancy, and I'm here at ADFEST 2015 with the Grand Jury President, Mr. Rei Inamoto. Rei, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're the Chief Creative Officer of AKQA,
Yep.
right? That sounds like a pretty awesome title.
It's probably more important than it actually is, but no, it's an interesting job, and it keeps me busy around the world.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
so kind of speaking about your kind of worldly background,
Sure.
I thought we would start by just talking about your background a little bit. You're a guy that's kind of spent time in a lot of different places, but also a lot of different disciplines. You
Yeah.
grew up in Japan.
Yeah.
You had some of your education in Switzerland, and then you've lived in the U.S. for about 20 years. Is that right?
Right.
And you have a fine arts background and a computer science background.
That's right.
So in many ways, you're kind of a citizen of the world, of a lot of different disciplines. And I'm curious about that. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it just kind of happened that way. So I'm born in Japan, educated in Europe, and made in the United States. When I was growing up, my parents were quite encouraging in terms of the types of interests and types of things that we pursued. They were very liberal, and they were quite encouraging both in terms of artistic interests as well as scientific and mathematical interests. I grew up in a family where my father, he managed a furniture company, but before he got into that business, he was a physics major. So he was always encouraging science. And then my mother was more of an artistic and a linguistic person. She studied in France when she was young.
Definitely. Well, so you had models of both kind of switching disciplines in your father and also kind of taking the leap of traveling the world with your mother.
Sure.
And I wonder, kind of going through your background and seeing some of the different things you've done, I wonder if that ability to kind of switch between these cultures and disciplines has informed your creative process.
Sure. I think when I was going through those different situations, different cultures, and different environments, I didn't realize how useful that experience would be later on. And to be honest, each time I had to change an environment. So for instance, going from Japan to Switzerland when I was, I think, 15, that was definitely a big transition. There was a language barrier that I had to overcome. And for about 6 months or so, when I first went to Switzerland, it took about 6 months for me to be comfortable talking
Were you in the German-speaking part or the French-speaking part? Or?
I was in the Italian-speaking part.
Of course, the one I didn't mention. Yeah.
Right. But the school was an international school, so the common language was English.
Okay.
And although I studied English before I left Japan, it was still difficult to be natural and comfortable in speaking in another language. So that was the first barrier that I had to overcome. And then the other thing that I think was useful in hindsight was the fact that it was an international school, and among 250 kids that were at that school, at that boarding school in Switzerland, I think there were kids from 70 different countries. Right, so it was an extremely diverse cultural melting pot, and I think that definitely made my eyes open to other cultures, and then naturally, as an extension of that, being open to other disciplines, I think became quite useful.
Well, and so that exposure to that diversity, and it seems like that started very early for you when you were 15 or 16, and presumably has continued as you travel. Kind of with work. I mean, how has that exposure to different cultures kind of maybe sharpened your perception of your roots in Japan? Has it made you kind of identify things that are uniquely kind of Japanese ideas or conceptions?
You know, it's interesting that you ask, and being at ADFEST, which takes place in Pattaya, Thailand, and it's in Asia, and every time I come back to either Japan or any Asian country, I definitely feel at home. And although I've been gone from Japan and I've been away from Asia for such a long time, I've spent more than half of my life overseas now. I think the longer that I stay away from Asia, there are more and more things that I appreciate. There are more and more things that I like about either Japan or Asia. And had I stayed in Japan, I don't think I would have appreciated those values and cultural elements that I recognize now.